Dave told me about this award that he received while he was in the service. I encouraged him to bring it in. Let me take a look at it. He was able to bring it in, so it's here. And I just wanted to film and sharing that with you, the audience. So I'll be behind the camera here, and I'm excited to hear about this award that he received, and I hope you are too.
All right, so we talked about this a bunch of times, and so Mike, Mike and I had a conversation. My military career, I learned a lot while I was there. Some of the things I was meant to learn, some of the things I learned that maybe they didn't mean for me to learn, but I did have I had some fun, and there were some pretty amazing things that happened. And basically, the medal that we're going to talk about here, I did get a variety of different medals. Did get a Bronze Star, which also is a pretty good medal. This particular one is for Valor, so it stands out a little bit. They call it a Army Commendation Medal with V device. Note that the Commendation Medal is more common, but with V device, not common at all. In fact, they have to have a 3-star general or higher to give you the award, so it took a while before they could schedule and have it even give to us. So I guess that because we're here, I'll just read the narrative that comes along with the award.
So this is something that the Army wrote up about why you've received this award, why this was awarded to you.
Yeah.
This isn't your story. This
Correct.
is the official document
Yes.
that corresponds with the award.
Correct. So
Okay.
this is the narrative to accompany the award of Army Commendation Medal with Valor to Staff Sergeant David H. Breger, and it's written by the chain of command that I was working for at that time. And so it reads as follows: Staff Sergeant David H. Breger, United States U.S. Army, heroically distinguished himself through exceptionally valorous conduct in the face of the enemy of Afghanistan as the Senior Engineer Sergeant for Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha 1231, Special Operations Task Force South Kandahar Airfield, Afghanistan, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom on 15 February 2010. This opener is a little bit long. We're going to get there. While conducting Operation Mashtarak in the city of Marja, Nad Ali District, Helmand Province. Sergeant Breger's element, which was part of the supporting effort of one of the clearing operations of the area controlled by insurgents. The enemy attacked several times during the operation, placing accurate fire on Sergeant Breger's advancing positions with small arms, machine guns, and rocket-propelled grenades. Sergeant Breger continued to move his element while being engaged by enemy positions north of his location. Sergeant Breger's element cleared several buildings while under enemy fire, providing overwatch for the remaining friendly maneuvering elements. The enemy massed accurate fires on his position to stop further movement of the friendly forces. The enemy fires resulted in one friendly U.S. wounded in action on Building 5. Upon hearing the call of the wounded U.S. personnel over the radio, Sergeant Breger, with no concern for himself and exposed to accurate enemy fires, immediately moved to the rooftop of Building 5. Despite the heavy volume of accurate enemy fire the building was receiving and the lack of available cover, he moved forward and assisted in moving the U.S. wounded in action off the rooftop to a secure position and was able to provide first aid to the U.S. wounded in action. Sergeant Breger then coordinated covering fires for medical personnel to move the U.S. wounded in action to a landing zone for medical evacuation. His tactical and technical proficiency in the face of a determined enemy contributed greatly to the success of Operation Mashtarak and dealt a severe blow to the morale of insurgents, resulting in 8 enemies killed in action, and denied the use of countless improvised explosive devices. His actions are in keeping with the finest traditions of military heroism and reflect distinct credit upon him. Special Operations Task Force South, Combined Forces, Special Operations Component, Command, Afghanistan, and the United States Army.
Wow, there it is.
So that was this. And basically, in a nutshell, I was just there. I was in the right. I mean, it's kind of a funny story. And side note that reading this award, this is publicly approved for release. That when this award ceremony occurred, they recorded it and offered DVDs for like the families of people. There were a couple guys besides myself out of the company that got a award like this. There were only a few that got given out, when I think that there are a lot more that probably should have been given out, just because there are a lot of guys on my team that did some really hardcore stuff and they didn't necessarily get recognized for it. In this case, it just happened to be I got recognized for this because of the fact that this mission was very high profile, and so it got noticed, but other guys should have gotten this medal or better also, and they didn't. But with that being said, the ceremony where they read this award and they gave it, they offered DVDs to the family. So everything I'm talking about here in this Operation Mashtarak has been declassified, and I saw it on the news after I came back from it, but the way it was reported was not the way it looked to me. And I remember watching from the internet, coming back from this mission, and I'm watching on Fox News, and they're talking about this offensive operation, and I'm like, what the heck? That's not even how it happened. They completely reported on it wrong, which really rung my bell about trusting the mainstream media after that. But in the case of this story, that it just so happens that, we're in this place and we had a good amount of action there, but it wasn't even the most dangerous mission that I went on. There was definitely some other ones that were way more action-packed than this place. But when I happened to be maneuvering, I first hear this call over the radio, and I hear, side note, we had DEA agents that were there with us, and they were kind of like DEA guys that were trained like Navy SEALs, and they went around with SEALs and Special Forces guys to different countries, and they do different things there. And anyway, so when I hear over the radio, I hear, "Hey everybody, Rich just got shot in the chest and his plate worked. He owes everyone a case of beer. Ha 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 ha." And everyone's like laughing, because in Special Forces, the joke was when you were a rookie, every time like something happened to you for the first time, like it was your first night combat jump in parachute or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, that's your first time? Oh, rookie, you owe everyone a case of beer." So that was like kind of the joke of it. Well, in this case, I hear this, that Rich, this DEA guy, gets shot and his plate worked, and he owes everyone a case of beer. And so, haha, that's kind of funny. I guess he had a bullet come in, and he was on a rooftop, and it hit him, and it bounced off, and he's like, "Oh crap," and he was okay. But 5 minutes later, I hear another call over the radio that he just got shot several more times, but this time it wasn't in the plate, and he had a problem. And I realized that I was right near that building, and so I realized I was just close by, so I went there, and I went up onto the rooftop. I went up this ladder, and I get to the top of the roof, and I see him laying there. He's like got his rifle like kind of like almost dropped on the ground, and he's like a little bit on his side, and so like I run across the rooftop at him. And of course, when I run across the rooftop, all the stuff starts getting shot at me, because once you get above the walls and that concealment, then as soon as they see you, all this stuff starts coming in. So I get up there, and as I'm high up, all of a sudden I hear like crack, bang, crack, ding, and stuff is like bouncing off the floor underneath me and around me, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like going fast. And so I get over to him, and he's got a hole in his forearm that was, I guess it was like through here and through his bicep, but it wasn't really bleeding that much. It was just kind of like seeping, but it wasn't like, it wasn't arterial bleeding. It was more like venular bleeding, but it wasn't severe. Now, simultaneously, he also had a bullet that went, he was probably in like a prone position, so he got this one in his arm, and then one went through his leg. But the one that was in his leg was definitely bleeding a lot more, and you could see with the pulse of his pulse, you could see the blood was like flowing over the top. Now, interestingly enough, the hole was very small in all these wounds. The entry hole was very small, and it's just a thing that, that relates to some other analysis on other things we hear on the news that really makes me question some things. But his leg was bleeding pretty severely. So while I was up there, another guy on my team, Kenny, he ended up there too. And so the two of us, were like looking him over and, tearing his pants. And so I ended up putting a tourniquet on his leg. And so put the tourniquet on his leg, crank it really tight, and then his leg pretty much slowed down the bleeding. And then once the bleeding was slowed down on his leg, we just left his arm alone and then basically just dragged him across the rooftop. And so we drag him across the rooftop, and while we're dragging, stuff starts coming in again. It's like ding, 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 crack, ding, ding, ding. Sound effect. I don't know how good I'm doing it, but sort of like that. And when we got to where the ladder is, Kenny and I like drag him down the ladder, and he's like, oh, 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 oh. And we got him down to the ground. And so then we're like cutting his pants apart and reducing his tourniquet to a pressure dressing, and injected him with some painkillers. And by that time he was pretty high, and he was like, he's like, Dave, don't cut. He's like, Dave, please don't cut my off, because I'm like cutting. Anyway, but I assured him that I was not going to cut off his. It was going to be fine, and it was. His ding dong was fine. So anyway, all said and done.
I didn't notice that in the official report. They failed to include that. That's very important.
Yeah, that's actually, you're right. They should have been like, and. Anyway, so basically, we reduced his tourniquet to a pressure dressing and coordinated for a helicopter to come and pick him up. And we secured a landing zone for the helicopter. Helicopter came, they picked him up, they flew him away. We were still on the ground for at least another night. I think we stayed overnight, and then the next night, around midnight, is when we got picked up. And I have an amazing explosion video from that last day. So he lived. And he but it hurt him, and he was not going to work in the field after that because his hand was messed up, so he wasn't going to be able to work in the field anymore. But he got a lot of credibility, got shot a bunch of times and survived in combat action. So he got promoted, but to a promoted desk job, and his career was doing really well as a result of that. And so, anyway, that's the story of my Valor Award. And so Mike wanted to hear it. Now We've told you, we can, I'm going to photocopy this so that I have more copies, but maybe we're going to release this. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, it looks like we must have put it up as a video. So if you like
Dave, I just want to say thanks for bringing this in. I know you told me a little bit about this story in passing. You mentioned this award, and I encouraged you to bring it into the showroom so people can see it and so that you can put it on display. And I know that you're more humble about these things, and it took some encouragement for me to have you bring it in. So I appreciate you doing that and for telling us the story and allowing us to share this video and have the audience hear this story. You serve this country in this way courageously, and thank you for your service.
Well, thanks, Mike. That's nice of you. And also thank you folks for watching this video. If you like this video and you're interested in this type of subject, let us know in the comments if you're interested to hear more like military war stories and things. I'm open to talking about some of that stuff. We might even do it on a different channel that maybe is like less censorship risk. But if you're interested in that, we just would like to know, to gauge interest in how much like war story stuff you're interested in. Let me know. But also thanks for watching. I'm Silver Dave now. My new mission is silver in the hands of Americans, silver as a dollar inflation hedge, and silver as a barter tool. That's little pieces for barters and trades. That's my new mission. So please join us on this mission. Call us, stop by, share the videos, like, subscribe. Any of these things helps. Thank you so much. I'm Silver Dave at Local Silver Mint, reminding you to keep on stacking. Went on where we had way more hardcore shit and way more gunfights and much more danger, and guys did have to do a rescue of another wounded American or a wounded, it helped that it was an American that was wounded, but in other cases wounded Afghan guys, but that were working for us. And because this mission was so high profile, we got these awards, we got approved for it. But I guess my point is that there were other missions and other actions that guys took that didn't get noticed, that were even way more over the top. And sometimes that's the thing about it, is that the system is kind of not that good. It's not that good at quantifying and tracking all the things. It's like a bureaucracy.